Are you a sex worker looking to build a new website or a website redesign? Then you'll want to consider Fox Digital. They did a fantastic job designing my website, Stripped by Sia. If you want your website done, mention that you're a listener of the show at foxdigital.design for 20% off. Tell them I sent ya. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage, which you can still catch me here at the Penthouse nightclub in Vancouver, Canada for another fun week. Please come say hi. I just want to do a quick shout out to Steve, all the way, I think from Pennsylvania, you mentioned, who came in and popped in at work and was like, I need to meet you in person. Let's go chat about your show. And I just want to say hello because I know you'll be listening to this episode. So hello and thank you. And thanks for coming to my front row and tipping. That was awesome. Besides being a dancer, I have also been a sugar baby many years ago. It's kind of how I got my start in the industry. And then I would also say that I'm a digital content creator as well as a cam model on Streamate. So a lot of things in sex work, which has been great. Lots of dipping my toes and things, as a lot of you sex workers are listening out there know all about. Other than that, I just want to do a quick little shout out, welcome, announcement. It is season 6. It is season 6. This is the season 6 opener. I'm super stoked that we're finally here. I don't even know where the past 5 seasons went, but it's been over 200 episodes of like weekly recordings, doing this since 2019. So I am incredibly just humbled that you're all still with me and listening. So thank you all so very much. I could not have done this without you all. And you guys all keep me motivated to continue to kind of dig deeper, find some new topics, and bring some like very captivating guests on to the show. So again, thank you so much for all of your support. And speaking of support, I just want to go ahead and say hello to the Patreon subscribers that we have here that are currently subscribed. You all get a little shout out on this show if you are on tier 2 or 3 and higher. So just want to say hello to Snoo from Germany. We've got Aruba Starcar from Canada. We've got Jay Sunsern, also from Canada. Justin Erickson from the USA. Ted McGuire, not sure where you're from, but hello, also a longtime listener. We've got Geyser, brand new there. And we've got Selena Money. Feel free to check it out. It's patreon.com/strippedbysia. You can kind of check it out there for some video exclusive content that you cannot find anywhere else. I have all my bonus episodes that are up on there now, including one's going to be on there really soon with my recent feature on iHeartRadio. What else can you expect there? Yeah, you can get some access to the episodes early, all that fun stuff, starting as low as $4 a month. So be sure to check it out, patreon.com/strippedbysia. I am also on the network Skyhawk After Dark TV, which is a network of other adult industry related podcasts. We got some video casts as well. A lot of folks that you've listened to in the past have been on my show, and I've been on their shows as well. So if you do like similar content and related to this, feel free to check it out. It's skyhawkafterdarktv.com. And last but not least, I would like to thank our sponsor. We have Fox Digital here, a friend of mine who's also local to Vancouver, Canada. Well, actually Victoria. But anyways, if you're looking for a website to get made, or maybe if you wanted to kind of renovate that or kind of revamp that and rejig it a bit, Fox Digital is a great option for you. And he's got great options for you to choose from if you're looking for something that's a bit more low-key, minimal, and affordable, most importantly. And I just want to extend a wonderful discount that Anthony from Fox Digital is giving to our lovely guests and listeners of the show here. He is giving people 20% off, and that's just for Stripped by Sia listeners. So feel free to reach out to him. His name is Anthony. He's the owner and principal of Fox Digital. So it's foxdigital.design, and tell him I sent you. Okay, so I've managed to get that under 4 minutes, which is a great, significant improvement from the 5 minutes that I usually do. And if you're hearing some giggling here in the background, this is our season 6 opener. She's a total powerhouse. She is a content creator herself, but has worn many different hats in the industry, which you'll all learn about very quickly. I'm also going to allow her to give herself her own introduction. But without further ado, I'd love to introduce Marcela Alonso onto the show. Hello, Marcela. Good late morning to you.
Good morning to you. I am Marcela Alonso, and I have been around for a very long time. I started in 1995. I got into sex work not for any vanity purposes, but I was a single mother. I got into it. Actually, I was a survival sex worker. I got into stripping first for many, many years. That is how I paid my bills. I was a single parent at a young age, was able to, make sure both of my kids had a very good life. My oldest, of course, spent many years in Catholic school because I was trying to give her the best education and best moral support I can. From stripping, I went to dominatrix. I did phone sex. I got on StreamMate in 2011. I remember I've done everything except for work for professional porn company. I am also currently with the Screen Actors Guild, SAG, as you know, at Union 2. That was the only vanilla job, other than selling real estate for a brief period of time, that I could get into. So I have worn many, many hats, and I'm still in sex work as it is. And I do host my own podcast called Get Schooled, where I bring on various sex workers, in different aspects of the sex work and adult entertainment as well, to kind of bring them all together, because I noticed as I entered different type of sex work, there was a pool of people that did not understand each other. So with my podcast, I'm trying to bridge everybody together. So we, because I feel like all sex workers, we're all under the same umbrella,
Yes.
Whether you have done in-person work, whether you have stripped, whether you've done phone sex, whether you're a porn performer, we are all under the same umbrella. And I want us all to be united and not have any hierarchy, as
yes, I was just going to mention that too,
Yes.
because, and I love that you're doing that in terms of like bridging the gap, because there really is a gap. I see a lot of.
Oh, yes.
And it's really frustrating to see that, because as you mentioned, for those, and if you're first time listener here, you don't know what the hierarchy is. It's basically a hierarchy between different forms of sex work. So like, and there's different like hierarchies and different triangles. If you want to kind of think about it as like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for one example, you can have, let's say, like cam girls are at the top because it's all virtual. They don't have any in-person contact and whatnot. Then maybe next down the line might be stripping, because again, like nothing else like happens beyond the dancing part. And then it kind of goes into like indoor sex work and like a lot of like street survival based sex work or outdoor sex work that's on the bottom there too. But of course they vary from concept to concept. But really glad that you mentioned that, because it's really dangerous. It really does a lot of damage to sex workers and to a lot of people that are not in our industry. And like, where do you think they get these stereotypes and assumptions from? Like, it's so frustrating to hear that.
Well, I remember during the pandemic, I quit seeing people all together. I'm older. And before the vaccine came out, I did not even want to leave the house because I could die and I have bad lungs. And I remember I was on Clubhouse and one girl made a comment, well, you're not doing in-person work. And I'm thinking like, hello, it's a pandemic. If I catch that vaccine, I'm dead. And then I've received also prejudice before from a porn star because I've never done porn, and I have seen people in person. So it's very, very weird to me when other sex workers shame other sex workers, because we all basically do the same thing. And we all, yeah, and everybody's good at certain things or has different comfort levels. I personally never did porn, not because I have a lot of good friends that did porn, but I remember in 2009, 2010, I knew a lot of people that were with a company called LA Direct, and I just heard horror stories. And then also, I got with SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and I was introduced to getting like residuals on TV show and movies. And that was my personal decision of not to do porn because there was no residuals. And, we all have our personal comfort or what we're going to do. And it's not, and I wasn't shamed that I didn't feel, but I just, after hearing horror stories from about an agency and then seeing they don't receive residuals, I was like, this just personally is not for me. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best people I know, my best friend, Ava Devine, does porn, and she's the most beautiful person I know of, and she's a great person. So we all just need to do what we're comfortable with in sex work. You never do. It was Nina Hartley that said, never do what you're not comfortable doing in the bedroom. But that also is, if you're not comfortable talking to friends, talking to fans or stuff like that, maybe doing more cam work might be better for you. If you're comfortable seeing people in person, but you don't want your image, okay, maybe full service, or massage work might be good for you.
Yeah. And you mentioned that. Like, that's really important as well, because like, as I kind of mentioned briefly in the show in the beginning, like, and my experience and like your experience kind of sounds the same in terms of like, we kind of dip our toes in a lot of different things. And if you don't like it, then you could dip out, right? Like, yeah, you don't have to feel, I'm hoping that there are situations where people are in this for survival and are obligated to do this type of work. But like, ultimately, the people I bring on the show are people obviously that are consenting to do this and are choosing to do this as well. So you just kind of have to find the right fit for you, which I think is
right. Oh, and I was going to say the first 10 years of me dancing was survival. I feel very blessed. When I started in the business, it was either the track, strip clubs, or there was no internet whatsoever. And I felt very blessed to be it was either the track, you would work the services, which had the beepers back in the day and the yellow pages, and the strip club. So I felt very blessed that I was able to find a strip club that I could work at. So.
And you read my mind, because I was just about to transition and kind of go there. Of course you did. Of course, you're a podcast. You're like, okay, I think we're going here now. But yeah, I kind of want to know, like, again, talking about those first 10 years of survival sex work, because you were a single mom going there and starting and also looking back then, because this is what, mid-90s you mentioned that you started?
Yeah, I started in 1995.
It's a different time back then. Yeah. It is a different time now, right? So, going back to the options you had back then, you mentioned there was the track or the strip club. Was there any particular reason why that you want to go to the strip club? Like, did you find that was safer maybe? Or like, what are your thoughts on
that? I started in Tampa, Florida, and there was 2 clubs called Mons Venus and 2001. And sorry about that. I knew that I could get cash there, so it was just a matter of me getting hired. And Mons Venus was a great club to work at. 2001 is actually where I started. I actually started at underage at 17 on another club that was kind of far in Tampa, not at those 2 clubs because they checked IDs at the clubs in Tampa. And I just walked it. Again, I was like a single teen mom. And I was trying to work a regular job waitressing, and the owner would cut my hours all the time. And I couldn't survive. And minimum wage at the time was $4.25.
My God.
Yeah. So luckily the clubs hired me, and that's how I was able to first pay my rent. And I tried getting other jobs. Oh, I tried so hard. And I actually paid for my own college.
Wow.
The majority paid for Never got loans, never got grants. Or no, I tried getting a scholarship when I was working. I actually entered college at 17, and I tried getting a scholarship, and my old it was something to show that I was working, and my old boss at my vanilla job refused to even sign it.
Oh my God. That's freaking
Yeah.
frustrating. I hate to hear about that.
Yeah.
That's annoying. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was a different time. You were in a sticky situation to be in.
Yeah.
Also wanted to hear about like talking about getting hired at the club at those times, but also considering you're from Florida too. So there's a lot more like Latin American people there. But was it hard for you to get hired during that time? Because like in terms of like color, in terms of race, not
Yes. So in 2000, the club was called 2001 Odyssey. I remember I was probably like, I'm 5'4". I was probably 124. I'll never forget it. So I was a thin girl, and they were like, you can't work night shift. You can't work night shift. So I worked mid shift. I was like, okay, this works with my daughter. You know, at the time, I think she was 2 years old or like 18 months or something. I was like, okay, I'll just work this mid shift. And then I'm looking at the people coming in on night, and I see like, you know, it's obviously a Caucasian girl, and she's heavy. And I'm being told I'm fat at that point.
wow.
I'm fat. I'm at 124 pounds, 5'4", because I remember my weight at the time, and I was skinny, and I had a cute little butt. I always had a butt and all that. But yeah, I couldn't work nighttime. But then in come the white girls, all different sizes, all different shapes. And I noticed at 2001 Odyssey, all the black girls and all the Spanish girls, and even like there was 2 Asian girls I worked with, we all seemed to either work day shift or mid shift.
Right.
In a way, it was a good thing because I did learn to work day shift better. And I have that, like, because of me working earlier hours, I still have that internal hustle forever.
Yeah, definitely. That's a different.
But right away, I noticed the prejudice. Across the street, the owner, who I have to say that was one of the best clubs, the owner did make a big thing about weight, any size that you were at. And but he was more open to different races, which was good. You know, he was open to good. So Tampa is about 3 or 4 hours north and more centralized than Miami. And back then when I started, it predominantly was a white girl. And I did go, there was other clubs I did try going. I did try going to the Dollhouse. They wouldn't even let me in. I think they're still open to this day. Like all these topless clubs wouldn't let me in. So I started off nude, where there was no alcohol. And again, like that club, it was hard. It was difficult.
Yeah, that's a different time. But like, I mean, and I don't know if you know of anything, but I've also heard stories too, because I'm in a few different dancer groups as well. And there are a lot of Americans in those groups. But also like clubs can be very specific on body type. Sometimes, and as much as we don't want to say it, race is definitely still a thing to this day. Like it's kind of sad to see that. But I mean, that's kind of how you got your start. It's like, I mean, it's not a bad thing there, but it's a hard lesson to learn. That's for sure.
One club that I sued in Las Vegas that I worked later on in my career, the owner's son came up to me and said, and at the time, for many years, I dyed my hair blonde to fit in. He actually came up to me, and I sued the club later on, and I'll say that it's the Club Sapphires.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, the owner's son came up to me and said, "You're lucky you're a lighter skinned Latino, or you wouldn't be working here." So I've seen firsthand how prejudiced they are. And, you know, as my career went on and I went into different cities, I see how it plays out, how they'll let certain girls, you know, come in. I think at Spearmint Rhino in Vegas, the managers and the bouncers usually used to harass the black performers, African-American performers, and get them to tip more and threaten them with their job.
Fuck off.
Yeah, they were really, and because they kind of knew like, oh, they can't work at night. And I would see them extort the African-American girls, especially Spearmint Rhino.
That is awful.
Yeah, I sued them too. I sued quite a bit of strip clubs a while back. And just because I was, and I had friends that were still working, like, oh, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. No, I did it for a purpose, to stand up for other performers
Yeah.
and to stand up for POC, people of color, that are what they're going through, the times they're getting extorted, and what the bouncers did, or walking in the door. And there was times where you'd have to pay $150 to walk in the door, which is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. And of course they were
Yes.
probably getting different, like the white dancers probably getting some kind of preferential treatment,
Oh,
right?
oh, they all, that's, I'll never forget that, when I was at 2001, I was told, you can't work, you're heavy. And right away, I started dieting and working out, and I was pretty thin. It made me had a lifetime. I have a lifetime of taking care of myself because I've been in the adult industry. But I would see at night these other girls, and I'm like, hey, they're bigger than me. And I would say something, and I'm like, hey, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Like, why am I being told I'm fat and out of shape? You know what I'm saying? And then,
Oh my God.
and then I would also witness in the early days a lot of white Caucasian performers, dancers, I should say, because this is back when I was stripping, just get away with murder in the club. Yeah.
So fresh.
Pickpocketing, stealing, and that's okay. But then the moment somebody, you know what I mean, black or brown does it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of story. I mean, going along those lines too, it was a different time. And of course, this kind of varies geographically as well, right? I kind of want to talk about like representation. And this doesn't always have to be just in terms of dancing, but also like over the lifetime of your career too. Seeing people that are also like yourself, because I believe you're Puerto Rican, is your background?
My mother is from Puerto Rico, and I have Taino, which is the indigenous before Christopher Columbus took over Puerto Rico. And then on my father's side is Cuban. So when I trace back my roots, predominantly I'm indigenous and from Spain.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
But like going back to like industry, did you see a lot of people that were like yourself starting out, or like again segregated in different areas of the industry, or?
So when I first started to do porn back when I first started, I only saw one face that I could, and actually I interviewed her before, Jasmine St. Clair. I'll never forget the time I saw her, because she was the closest thing. I think she's Dutch. I don't know exactly what she is, but that was the only person I ever saw like in porn that closely resembled me. I never really noticed anybody else. As my years progress or whatever, then I did notice people like Nina Mercedes and Kiara, I can't think of her name, Kiara Mia. And I'm trying to think of who else I recognize. That's the other. I didn't really see too much, pretty much. I haven't really seen too much. Now I'm so happy that I see beautiful girls like Violet Myers, Kiki Cloud. They look like my daughters. So, and I'm so happy. And then they have long lines like they did at Exotica. But my day, I didn't even want to go there. And that was another big reason why I never entered really porn, because if I was getting this treatment in the strip clubs, how bad would it be to go on set?
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like, with porn specifically, like, again, can cater to a lot of racial stereotypes. Are we going to go there? Let's go there.
Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, so again, porn, I mean, if you're on Pornhub or whatever website you want to use, just looking down at the categories there, a lot of it is race-based, and even to this day, and like I know that they use that as like a marketing tactic, right? Clickbait, like obviously, but how much does that affect how people view us as sex workers, as talent and stuff like that? I mean, I'm really curious to hear your kind of take on that too, because going on what you just said here, that statement you made, like if they're treating me like this in the strip club, how am I going to get treated on set? am I even gonna, is anyone gonna have my back? Are you even gonna get hired? Like,
Yeah, it was the reality. I can say one thing: the most harassment, although I've received harassment from the fans, clients,
mhm.
and it's usually when I get fetishized by a white Caucasian person, and I've noticed the same stereotype, even talking from other performers or dancers or whatever. Usually, I get guys that they're into the Spanish girl, and then right away they're coming to me and they're like, "Hola, hola, cómo
Oh
está?"
my God.
And they're speaking to me in this broken Spanish, and I had one guy that was, I wouldn't even say he was a sugar daddy. He was more like a client, but I had to eventually just cut him out because
Mhm.
he was downright disrespectful to me. And he would call me and he'd be like, "Hola, ¿cómo está?
Oh
Hola."
God.
And wants me to speak to him the whole time in Spanish. Well, I was raised here. I was raised in the States. And it's not very comfortable for me to speak. When I speak Spanish, it's to family members, right? So it's not very comfortable for me to talk dirty in Spanish. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is when I'm speaking Spanish, it's amongst with family. It's not like really with
Yeah.
friends. And for me to talk dirty is the most difficult thing in the world because it's just like psychological. I'm like, that's where, you know what I mean? And I've had it where I've had clients and fans and all that. I'll say like, "Oh, Poppy," or whatever, but when they want you to like talk real dirty on purpose, it's like, okay, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, and I thought I was the only one, but then I talked to another a friend of mine, and he happened to say, "Yeah, it's uncomfortable too because I talk to my mom and dad all the time in Spanish." So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people don't realize that if you're born in the States, you pretty much went to school in English. You're around English all the time. You only are at home, and you definitely in a Spanish household. We're very, what's the word? We don't really talk about sex and stuff like that. We're not going there. We're not. Spanish households aren't so liberal
Yeah. Yeah.
as American household. You
I
understand?
mean, completely.
Yeah. So it's and also another big thing is there's different type of cultures. You get this because you're Asian. There's different types of
Yeah.
cultures, and we're all not Mexican. We're all not Puerto Rican. We're all not the other
Mhm.
countries, and I'm a
Yeah.
mix. And I got a lot of love when there was 10 wonderful years I was in LA, and I got a lot of love in LA from the Mexican community. And they were just the Mexican community is just wonderful. And I love Mexicans in general. They're the great. Some of my best fans are Mexican and they're great and they get it. They understand, but it's always the gringo
Oh,
that is, yeah, like doesn't get it and will say something that's kind of like off or triggering or like, you know what I mean? Can you wear a sombrero? And I'm like,
man. Uh,
yeah, that cringy.
very
Yeah.
cringy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Oh
is
my
like,
God. I mean, sorry, there's sunshine that's like shining through because I never recorded this time. I have,
oh, that's okay. Yeah.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean too, because like, again, my own experience as well. Substitute like hola and
Hmm.
papi with like konnichiwa, and I'm not even freaking Japanese, but like, or so the minute they find out that I'm Filipino, then they like start telling me these stories. Like I used to have a girlfriend in the Philippines, or I've been to the Philippines, and like they're trying so hard to relate to you, and it's just like giving me the opposite reaction. I'm just like you're only seeing me
Hmm.
as what I'm colored as, and it is very uncomfortable for me to be sitting through a conversation, or I mean it's not even a conversation, they're just talking at you about their experiences with Filipino women, and I'm just like,
Oh, I hate that.
yeah, it's creepy as fuck.
The worst one I ever had, the most creepiest one actually was the time I worked at the Bunny Ranch with Dennis Hoff. And he said the most creepiest thing ever. he said to me, "Oh, you're Cuban? I like the way how desperate Cuban girls are." When I was in Cuba, there was these 15-year-old girls, and they basically they had to sleep with me for some candy or something, he said to me. And I was just
Oh my
like,
God.
"You are disgusting." Yeah, that was the most disgusting um thing I ever heard from anybody. Because, like, again, like, they bring up where you're from and they make a point of telling you,
Mhm.
you know, oh, you're this. Oh, let me tell you about that. You know
Ew.
what I'm saying? So he said the most disgusting, vile thing
Yeah.
ever, especially as saying, I love the way how desperate the girls are
Oh,
in Cuba. Like, they had to sleep with me for some candy,
that's
like,
so fucked up.
and bragging.
That's gross. Like, and you can't see
Hmm.
my face right now, but my jaw literally dropped right now, and I'm just like, that is
Yeah.
mortifying. I don't even know how
Yeah.
you would react or even process that statement. That is so gross. Ugh, I hate that.
He's yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's it's disgusting, vile. He was another one that was very prejudiced. I remember going to
the
work at the bunny
irony.
ranch and being put all the way in the bad little bunny area, but then I made the most money like that week. And I was like, wow, the fuck is like, why am I getting the shittiest room? Like, I had a adjoining bathroom with a girl that had got in trouble for drugs. A white girl that got in trouble for drugs. I had to share a bathroom with her. And every night she was doing something, but then yet that week I made the most money. Like, and I was like, am I not that pretty? Like, and I didn't really get the calculation, but again, that's how the racism
Yeah.
is for.
And that is like a total, I'm so glad you just
Mhm.
said it, the R word, racism. That is like a complete undertone of these motivations and of why these actions are happening and why you're being subjected to that, because it is racist. And same thing goes along with the lines of, I mean, maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but like fetishization as well. Like maybe not racism, but colonialism.
Mm.
Yeah, and those being rooted in that, and again, just like the comments that like Dennis Hoff said too, is so problematic because as you might know, a lot of people of color, including myself, even though I was born here in Canada, have gone through these fetishizy type comments and clients and just people, and it's just so disturbing to me because one, you're basing that on a stereotype. Two, you're not even like making any effort to get to know us culturally. But three, why do you only see that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you have any comments on that, Marcella.
No, no, I totally agree with you. I think that's why I've always been friends with Asian girls. Like, one of my good friends, she's from Laos. My friend Ava Devine, she's half Chinese. We get it because we get the how people make the comments to us, and we've kind of feel sick. Like, all my sex worker friends have generally been, you know, not necessarily Caucasian, because we all get it.
Mhm.
We get it. You know what I'm saying? We understand, and um we don't go there with each other, and we respect each other's culture, and we respect each person as a friend,
Yeah.
and as a person first, where I get it. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's for a long time in the 90s, it was a white woman's world in sex work.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
was. Yeah. And I love the way things are changing.
Hmm.
They are changing for better, but I would like to, it's so nice that I see, like, when I go to Exotica, I see the biggest lion is Violet Myers. I'm so proud of her. And and I'm like, I'm loving that change, because it made me realize, like, I am pretty. I am, my look is wanted. For a long time, I didn't feel like I was the most prettiest thing.
Hmm.
Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be number one? But it's just what society thinks.
Yeah, and that was like a different time for sure. I mean, there was a lot of
Yeah.
like white women and just like white people in general that were on the pedestal. And then, of course, like
Yeah.
our experiences as people of color either get erased or are completely shafted. So I'm
Hmm.
really glad that, we're seeing a lot more folks of color that are in the industry, that are being peppered in the industry, and that are also getting their time to shine at this moment. And I'm kind of like, for example, I'm seeing that a lot with Asian people, which is really great, not just in mainstream media, but also within the adult industry space as well. And also, and on top of that, too, seeing a lot of like Latin American people as well, and people really embracing that. So I'm really glad to see that the industry is moving more towards an inclusive type of environment. And I'm not sure, like,
Yeah.
do you even know when that started to shift, if or like when you started to notice that was going to shift? Like,
Um, when did it start shifting? Because I've worked in different areas throughout the United States, I have noticed a trend where like California, when I worked over there, I did bachelor parties and I did strip. And California, like different parts of the United States, love different things. And California, Los Angeles especially, they love Latinas and they love brunettes. And I was able to finally be myself over there. However, when I moved to New York, all of a sudden, it was a totally different vibe. And, I didn't get that love anymore that I got like in LA. So I think different parts of United States, like if you dance, like of course, Miami, they love Latinas because, down there, I think every race is pretty much does well in Miami, where in other cities, it's different.
yeah,
Things are different. But in LA, I did feel a lot of love that I never felt anywhere else. New York, I don't really feel it so much, but I have talked to a beautiful blonde girl that I've worked with one time at a club recently, and she felt like kind of like, oh, I wish I was Latin. I said, honey, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful. I had to tell her, and I had to kind of tell her like what clubs for her to go to, because to go to her little niche. But
yeah,
I want to, things have slowly changed, but they're not fully changed.
yeah.
100%. And I discovered that when the rise of OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, During the pandemic, I got on OnlyFans. I think every sex worker primarily
Yes.
did. And then there was Telegram, and I noticed it was an increase of women that would never ever get in sex work all of a sudden jumped on
Yeah.
there. They literally they jumped on where they never did. And everybody was selling promo. Well, me personally, I can't buy. And then we were doing share for shares, and I did receive a lot of prejudice on Telegram from white content creators.
Wow.
But I noticed that promo buying, I can't buy. I had to just do my own thing and do different what everybody else is doing, because it wasn't working for me. Me buying promo from a Caucasian performer just didn't help my numbers, didn't do anything for me at
Yeah.
all. And I don't know if that's because it's a scam, but I noticed me going to events like Exotica, where I meet fans in person,
Mm-hmm.
that helps my numbers way more than any promo. Or me, doing my podcast, me posting every day on various social medias, that helps me, helps my growth
Yeah, for sure.
and all
And I
that.
remember like those.
So,
I remember those groups on Telegram, the shout for a shout, and the
oh,
retweeting groups, and all of that. And honestly, that shit was really exhausting, and I don't participate in that anymore either.
well, in 2019 is when I started on Telegram before all the chaotic, and it really was I was actually in the first OnlyFans group for Share for Share. And it was very beautiful because we were all sharing. We didn't look at color. We didn't look at we just, hey, you want to do a share for share? You want to do a share for share? And then the pandemic hit, and the so-called coaches came in that knew nothing about they just didn't understand. And I think it's really a personal thing for a woman to put up pictures of herself naked.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I feel like a lot of these new sex workers, they started doing things that were hurting existing sex workers, opening their pages for free. There was a lot of practices they started sharing or doing just that didn't help.
Yeah.
And right away, I was shunned when I said, hey, we shouldn't do for show our stuff for free. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, totally.
Like I've been in business a long time. When the doors are open for free, I didn't make any money. When they charge an admission, I made money. So it's like common sense. But then I said, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with this community. This is like a rat race.
Yeah.
I'm going to just do me.
Yeah, for sure. And you also mentioned something about like, finding your niche. That's also like really important too, right? Because like, if you're in a group, like a shout for shout group or share for share group that is just like all like really skinny, like blonde girls or something, like how are you going to fit into that equation? Like you don't.
Right, exactly. Right, you don't. And so when my Pacific looks, as the Telegram started changing, and then it just got crazy and toxic, and what I personally don't like and I don't believe in is, and I never saw this before till 2020, is sex workers making money off other sex workers.
Yeah.
And
really, really toxic.
That's
and
just,
I hate to
it's
hear
just
too.
toxic. It's toxic. Yeah.
Like a really scammy kind of point, which makes me also deeply uncomfortable as well. But it's frustrating stuff.
Yeah.
Marcela, I also wanted to talk to you about like the podcast.
Exactly.
Well, Get Schooled, which is an amazing podcast as well. So congrats on that. I definitely wanted to kind of bring up your experience as a person of color podcasting in the adult space. What your experience has been like podcasting. I know we were speaking off air earlier a little bit in terms of, some adult podcasts being really like kind of wanted to hear surface level, maybe just really superficial, maybe from the male gaze, especially when you have male interviewers and stuff like that. But kind of your take on your experience with that so far. Can be a spicy topic.
So I made Get Schooled because basically I wanted it to be for people that had been in the business for a while. And my big thing was bridging the gaps of the different sex worker world. So when I entered Telegram, I noticed a lot of people, they never stripped, or they never did in-person work, or they never did domination. They never, but they kind of frowned on other people. And when I stripped, that was a totally different world. Some strippers, they didn't want to be known. And, then having friends that were porn stars, that's a totally different world. So with Get Schooled, I'm trying to showcase all genders, all races, all forms of sex workers, the best that I can. Because as you know, as a podcaster, like you want certain guests, but you're like, oh man, I need to get them on. So, I developed Get Schooled, and I have tried having all different sorts of people. I even had Gerard Damiano, who is the son of the director from Deep Throat. I had him on, which was a very good episode because, I really wanted to see how it was being a child of this director in the time that he was going. And I try showcasing different aspects of sex work by various people. And then I've even done episodes I've done like an episode with Nina Kay, and she did an episode about dog training. Cause I love seeing sex workers when they have a different interest and they're passionate about it. I want to kind of showcase them because I experienced this myself. Like I can't go and do certain things because they judge me right away. So I want to give would Get Schooled. I'm trying to give sex workers a space to showcase who they are, not glorify sex work, but actually share the reality. So another big thing with me is I don't want to share incomes. I feel like some of the stuff that I have seen in the media, even in the past, like when I went to the Bunny Ranch, I noticed girls were going there because what he did a lot of PR work to promote that they made all this money. When in reality, I could make more money at the strip club than at the brothel. And I don't like those PR stunts where, girls are announcing, I make 200,000
Yes.
a month. I just feel that it's very misleading to sex workers or people listening in, and it's a lot more detailed. So with my podcast, I want to showcase more of
What's
the
real?
realities, what we go through, what's, whether it be what's real. Yeah. So people can listen. And I'm also just going to do it. I'm not going to like feature it on YouTube, because my big thing also is
Yeah.
I don't want to encourage anybody underage to get into sex work. That's a very big thing with me, because I did start at a young age. I did it for necessity to survive. But, through the years, I have run across girls that, they could do other things, and they enter in the sex work and they get involved with addictions, and maybe sex work isn't really for them, but they think, hey, I'm going to make all this type of money. But there's a lot to deal with emotionally, mentally.
Yes.
In sex
Oh my gosh.
work.
I have so many
really
nuggets and
present the
questions
reality.
I have to ask you. There's so many great things you said there. But yes, sensationalism is one thing, and that is super freaking problematic. And that goes along with what you're saying about these like clickbaity titles and these PR stunts and stuff too. Like, I make this much money on OnlyFans. I see so many of that shit, and it's just really stupid. And also, like, with podcasts too, though, podcasts are definitely not free from this shit either. Because like, I feel like you're really attracting the wrong type of people to kind of click and listen into that content or consume that content, which makes it really dangerous, because you have a lot of these newcomers coming into the industry that have not done their prior research, that maybe have just turned 18, that are super fresh, super young, and haven't had any life experience, and are finding themselves in situations that can be really, really dangerous. Or again, like giving away shit for free, stuff like that. So, and I find that, like, I've spoken briefly about this on the podcast before, but like stuff with like TikTok, and they have like strip talk, and they're talking about like sex work and stuff there too. But a lot of it is trying to do it for clout, and trying to do it for clicks. And I appreciate shows like yours, like Get Schooled, and also like obviously like a motivation for this show too is to really demonstrate, okay, this is actually not an inflated conversation. This is actually speaking some truth and showcasing some authenticity, and also just being, as we mentioned, very real about the whole thing, because and are in kind of some people don't actually really are like blind in terms of like not really wanting to hear the real thing or hear the numbers or whatever it is, like denial, I find.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people, they don't. And what I have noticed, there's people, they fall after the pandemic, they saw some of these articles and they think, oh, I can do this. And they don't know the realities. And the realities is, because I can say this, because as long as I've been, and if somebody comes for me, I'm going to like come for them back. But if you're in sex work, you will have a difficult time getting into a relationship. Dating is very, very hard. And it's not the easiest thing. Also, you do get jaded with men. I think many years of me stripping, I could meet a guy and I could tell you everything about the guy, but right when I met him. So that little skill in itself made it hard. But when you get into a relationship with somebody, whether you're dating or boyfriend or whatever, it's very hard to find that particular person. So once you do get in sex work, it's hard. Then your children. Both of my children are adults. My oldest, I have to say, my oldest is the one that never gave me a hard time about what I did. But my youngest put me through the worst hell in my life. My youngest daughter, who is now 19, she put me through hell. And now she finally realizes, as she's an adult, she's like, Mom, now I get it, what you had to do. And I'm like, when you were 13, could you appreciate that? So I never worked and like shared stuff with my kids or whatever. It was always, like, I think when my younger daughter, her paternal aunt, her father's sister, told her what I did one day out of like spite, and it caused a lot of drama. So, people are saying, oh, I'm going to sit down with my kids and talk to them. Yes, that's good. But you never know when that, envious ex comes and talks to your kids. So,
Yeah.
or cause drama or stress. So that's another thing you're going to encounter. I can say one thing. What's helped me with my longevity in my career is not being put on a pedestal, because I notice all the sex workers through the years, many decades I've been in it, the people that were ever put on a pedestal, like once that their moment of shine was over, they didn't know how to function. And so, because I never was put on a pedestal from the beginning, I'm still the same person that I've always been. I'm still having to fight to get on, to do more and to push my brand. I'm still having that fight as we speak to this day. So I feel like that has grounded me and humbled me, never being put on a pedestal. So in a
Heard that,
way,
Marcella. That's
yeah.
really great, and akin to what you were saying earlier too. Like, with a lot of people, like it's a really fast industry, really fast moving industry.
Mm-hmm.
And also what you're saying too about, sometimes these young girls that get into the industry assuming that the work is easy, or it's like very easy money. Sure, it can be easy money when you're working at it, but then they don't know how to function in like outside of this world, which can
Yeah.
be really dangerous. And also like what you were saying too about the whole dating thing as well, like being really jaded with men, or like I've just seen so many threads in these like groups that I'm in. There's like, oh, I'm like, why should I go on a date when I can get paid? Or I can get a bag bought for me and blah, blah, blah. And I'll just end up marrying a sugar daddy. And that was literally my attitude before when I was a sugar daddy, when I was a sugar baby, when I first entered the industry, which is a really problematic way of thinking. It
Yeah.
brainwashes you.
Yeah, you do need to find, if you are going to get in a relationship, you do need to find somebody that works just as hard as you do. And that's what I've noticed with any type of relationship I've gone into. But at the end of the day, like when girls say, oh, I want to marry somebody, or they need to spend that's kind of like BS. You need to be able to find somebody that you can do regular things with, that you
Yeah.
can watch Netflix, that you can go to the movies with, that you enjoy their company with. If you're going to be in a relationship, it is kind of toxic when girls say that. But I've noticed, though, to make it work in any type of relationship in the past, it has to be somebody that is kind of equal to me, where they're working just as hard as I do. And then they kind of have to know about sex work and respect you too as well. And
Yes.
there need to be that understanding, because I do see a lot of relationships where girls get with these guys and the next thing you know, they're supporting them 100%. And it's just not a good, it's not a good thing
No.
at all. But if a relationship is a partnership that you both are like working your butts off, and you know what I'm saying, you both are
Contributing to it.
doing stuff together. Yeah, contributing. There are couples that I know of that they really do a good job, like where the husband's like filming and he's doing a lot of
Mhm.
stuff, and those are really equal relationships. There's not so many of them that I see,
Mhm.
but you relationships are, you think they're difficult in a vanilla world? Oh, go be a sex worker. Like, go be a sex worker. Like, and I actually joined a swinger site thinking I was going to find a guy. That turned into a nightmare. I
Oh
joined a
no.
swinger site one time when I was in LA, because I thought I would find an open-minded person. I did go to the best parties I ever went to in my life, though, I could say that. But I didn't find anybody. I found guys that just wanted to, like, go to different swingers events. But I met some really cool couples that gladly took me anywhere and treated me great. But I wanted to ultimately find that open-minded partner. And it's relationships and sex work are very, very difficult, sticky, and not so easy. So you're paying the price for that. And then with family, eventually, it's
Oh
just not. Also, another thing that I have to say that is vital, if you want for your longevity, and if you're going to be in sex work, you need to be able to do everything sober.
yeah. Yeah. I'm totally
That's
with you on
another
that
thing.
one. I am totally with you on that one for
Yes.
sure.
And I will have a drink or two, yes, But luckily, when I started dancing, I had a young daughter, and my big thing was I wanted to just be able to pick her up from the babysitter, and I didn't want to dare drink when I had my daughter around because I was, she was my only child at the time, and so because of that, I learned to work sober from the get-go.
Right.
I didn't drink at all. And I carried that on. And because I was dancing first to talk to people, those two skills, sobriety and learning to talk to people and communicate and learning talking to everybody, not just standing there waiting for somebody, but learning to talk to everybody. Those two things have lasted throughout my sex worker career and have helped me very much. So with everything.
Ending that note with sobriety, yeah, I have to kind of agree with you on that one there. I am completely with you on that. I've personally found that it has worked for me. It helps me stay focused a lot better. I'm more in control, and I can kind of, I don't know, for me it works. I know for some people it doesn't. And again, we'll probably have a future episode on this because it is such a big debate. But that's another conversation for another day for sure. But Marcela, before I let you go, where can we all find you?
You can go to marcelasobella.com, or my IG is Marcela Sobella. My Twitter is Marcela with 1L _LUV. And what else do I have? I have a Twitter. I have so many. I have a YouTube, Marcela Sobella. Yes. And my biggest social media platform actually is Facebook. And that's Marcela Sobella.
No way.
Yeah. Facebook has been very good for me. And it's actually another income. I actually got I filed taxes with Meta under. So yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool. That was so surprising to me. I'm like, wow, that's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
But all these links, if you are interested in connecting with Marcela, it's going to be in the show notes. If you haven't already clicked, please go ahead and give her a follow. Go listen to her podcast, Get Schooled, available on all podcast platforms. And for everyone else listening at home, it is Stripped by Sia on all podcast platforms as well. Feel free to give me a 5-star rating if you're really enjoying the content. It is for free. I have been doing this every single week. It's all out there, but I would appreciate a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. And if you do want to be on the show, I do have a website, or you can reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram. It's strippedbysia.com, and my handles on Twitter and Instagram are strippedbysia. Please pitch me and not just say that you want to be on the show. I do vet everyone and do a lot of research and stalk people for a little bit if people are wanting to come on the show. But that also really guarantees some good high quality content, because I just really want to be bringing good people onto the show and sharing good information all around. But with that being said, it is new episodes every single Sunday, dropping at 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll catch everyone in for another episode next week. Marcela, thank you so much for joining me today and for kicking off season 6. Cannot wait to have you on again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and stop. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.